You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's November 17th, and welcome to Psychedelics Cannabis Educational News. Good morning, Rev Cindy. How you doing?
Yeah, good morning, Al. Whew, it's a big day. I'm full of nerves and excitement. How are you?
Yeah. Oh, I'm doing all right. I'm in a temporary space today. I got the blank wall behind me, but things will be back to normal next week, or actually Thursday. Now talking. Oh yeah, there you go. You got some background stuff as well. Talking about busy days. You've got one tonight.
I do. It's basically the reason why I'm excited and nervous. It's a big day for me. I have spent time in my past speaking before, usually just about cannabis, actually always just about cannabis. So this is the first opportunity that I have had to stand up and speak about psychedelics in a public manner. I am beyond nervous because I hate public speaking, and I have since I was a kid, but I'm really excited to do it. And I'm really excited not just to do it, but to face that trigger and that fear and stand up and win. So tonight, if you are in Halifax or around Halifax, come on down to the Halifax Regional Public Library into the BMO room. And the Nova Scotia Psychedelic Society is hosting a speaker series. And tonight they are welcoming me to speak up and talk about walking in ceremony with medicines. I have chosen 4 of the medicines that I serve to speak about this evening. And I'm really excited to get up and do that. So at 6:30 p.m. In the BMO community room at the Central Library on Spring Garden Road is where it is being held. So if you want to show up a few minutes early to get settled in a seat, and we will be going till about 7:30. I will be speaking, and there will be a short time for some questions and answers afterwards. If you're not in Halifax and want to join, we will be. If you go to our site, they are handing out a Zoom meeting link, so you can join via that way. I will be sending the link to Al as well, so he can share it on the pages and stream it through Pace Radio. So you can just kind of log into Pace Radio and watch if you would like.
Exactly. We try to get as much coverage on this as we can.
Yeah.
And the thing about this is, you said you're nervous. This is the first time you've done this. You know, once you do that first time, you say, "Oh, geez, I felt so good after that. I want to do it again and again and again."
And again.
So you still have that slight nervousness going into it, knowing that how good you'll feel when you're finished. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Public speaking, I was not a big fan of it either, but it's something that I felt that had to be done. And
yeah, well, it's triggering me back to grade school. Like, I mean, back in the grade, 3, 4, 5, 6 era, really 4, 5, 6, where it became part of English class, public speaking. And back then we had to have everything memorized, and we had to hand it in and almost be verbatim as the teacher sitting there reading your written word that you're not allowed to have. And thankfully, I don't have that now. I've got it all out. I've got it all typed. So if my nerves get to me, I can just read.
Exactly.
This all comes from the heart. It was all basically written with my eyes closed and just typing from the heart. So yeah, you still get the same sentiment. I may have to read it for my own nerves, and thankfully the board is okay with that as well. So I'm just really excited for the chance to get up and do this.
Yeah. I'm excited for you as well, and
Thank
I know it's going to be a success, and you're going to go on and do it again. There's no doubt about that.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, here we go. We'll get into the cannabis and psychedelic news from around the world. And our first story is ready to go.
Yeah, coming to us from StratCan. Canadian cannabis sales and inventory in the first quarter of 2025. Market share shifts and inventory increases.
Yeah, the newest sales and inventory figures from the Government of Canada reveal significant shifts in the Canadian cannabis market for the first quarter of 2025. Total medical and non-medical sales are up 17% year over year, driven by continued decline in dried cannabis market share, which dipped below 50% for the first time. Dried cannabis market share continued its slow but steady decline, dropping 1% point from the previous quarter's 50% to 49%, and is down from 50% year over year. Meanwhile, edibles increased by 2% to 26%, while concentrates held steady at 25%.
Wow. Cannabis seeds saw a 59% drop from, about 10.5 thousand, wow, to 4,364. That's a huge drop. Made me stutter. Cannabis topicals increased by 79%. Oh, that's a huge jump too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vegetative cannabis plants saw a spike, increasing from 712 to 1,672 units.
Well, I got to stop you there. Just for a second. Where have you seen plants being sold?
Oh my goodness, all over the place.
You see plants being sold in stores?
Yes. Yeah,
Really?
here in Nova Scotia, they sell clones.
Oh, I haven't seen any in a store.
They usually only do it during that season of outdoor planting, like preparing for outdoor planting. But there are a few months when that's going on that I've seen them here in Nova Scotia at a number of different liquor store, cannabis store.
I'm just going to the wrong stores.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised by the seed drop because of the time of year. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Continue. Sorry.
Total packaged inventory. Nova Scotia is leading in something. Yes. Total packaged inventory across all product types rose 16% from March of 2024. Total packaged inventory of dried cannabis increased 10% year over year, while packaged units of edibles increased by 20%.
Total packaged units and inventory of cannabis extracts increased by 21% year over year. And as of January 2025, Health Canada's quarterly figures no longer provide detailed inventory and sales data for each product category. All figures for dried cannabis, edible and cannabis extracts and topicals and plants and seeds and licensed area and employment info through 2024 are now archived. These figures come from data reported. What's that?
Nothing. I didn't say a word.
Oh, okay. I thought you said something. These figures come from data reported under Health Canada's Cannabis Tracking System order.
While dried cannabis flower remains the most commonly sold unit in the non-medical adult use cannabis market in Canada, edibles have continued to dominate sales in the medical market. Cannabis extracts and dried flower have been competing for the distant second place spot, but cannabis extracts have claimed that place from October of 2024 through to March 2025. Over the 12-month period from April to March 24 to 25, Health Canada issued 100 new federal cannabis licenses. The majority of these, 65 of them, were micros, while 29 were standard license holders, and only 2 were cannabis nurseries, and 4 were medical sales only licenses.
Yeah, there are currently 917 active federal cannabis licenses. There are 482 micro license holders, 398 standard license holders, and 18 cannabis nursery license holders, and 19 medical sales only license holders. And as of March the 31st, there has been 364 licenses revoked at the request of the license holder, 17 licenses revoked by Health Canada, and 53 expired licenses for a total of 434 inactivated licenses.
Wow. So back in late 26, well, second half of 2016 into 2017, when I first got my my cannabis prescription, and I started that healing process using cannabis as a medicine. There were 17 licensed producers. That's it.
That was
And
it.
they were all medical. So there were 17. I remember when they jumped to 19. I remember when we hit 27, and I thought, I got to start keeping a record of these people, because people would come to me and ask, where do I go? And they all had different products. So yeah, now we have 917 active.
Yeah.
And like I said, I started following when we had 17.
I remember when there was just one. That was Prairie Plant Systems, PPS. It was cannabis that was grown in a mine shaft in Saskatchewan.
I remember that. I came in just as more licensed producers were being added, and thankfully, because I did smoke some of that stuff, and I don't know if I would have. It wasn't very good cannabis, but it was there and it was legal. Yeah, so it's interesting to see how far it's come. 17 from the day I got into it to 917 today.
There was at one time over 1,000.
Yes.
Yeah, and so the numbers are going to come down a little bit, but there's 400 and some odd that are inactive. So you add those to the ones that are active, and you're looking at basically 1,400 licenses.
And a lot of the ones that are active are actually conglomerates, because so-and-so has bought so-and-so, and then they bought so-and-so, and then they were bought over by so-and-so. So now these 4 are actually one.
Yeah. And there's more micro licenses than there is the standard licenses too. So that was good. Good to see. All right. Time for us to move on to the next story as I get it lined up, because I'm busy talking. Okay, here we go.
Here we go. Coming to us from Marijuana Moment, top veterans group warns Congress that hemp ban could slam the door shut on medical research.
A leading veterans organization is warning congressional leaders that a newly approved blanket ban on consumable hemp products could inadvertently slam the door shut on critical research. In a letter sent to the House and Senate leaders on Wednesday, veterans of foreign wars of the United States executives stressed the importance of supporting solid scientific research into hemp-derived cannabinoids, which they said could be jeopardized by provisions of a spending bill President Donald Trump has signed into law.
Hemp-based cannabinoid products could offer a real alternative to the heavy prescription drugs so many of our veterans are given for PTSD, anxiety, pain, and sleep problems. This is from the VFW's Carol Whitmore and Dan West. And absolutely, I mean, Trump is going on about we got to clean up the drugs. Well, then let people have cannabis. Seriously. Yeah. Every day, doctors hand out strong sedatives and psychoactive meds to help veterans cope. They work for some, but too many end up hooked. There you go, hooked, numb, or just dealing with brutal side effects. I have had all 3. We've all watched good men and women get trapped in a cycle of pills that dull the pain, but don't fix the problem.
Correct. Yes, exactly. It's time to look harder at safer options. Early research on certain hemp compounds shows promise for managing symptoms and reducing physical pain without the same addiction risks, the letter says, citing recent studies indicating the hemp-derived cannabinoids improve symptoms of PTSD and may be an effective treatment alternative for pain and anxiety. This isn't proof of a miracle cure, just clear signs that we should keep studying, but sweeping moves to close the hemp loophole could slam that door shut. A blanket ban on hemp cannabinoids could make it nearly impossible for researchers and the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs hospitals to study these compounds legally. It would also hurt veterans-owned small businesses already playing by the rules. Critically, it would drive veterans looking for relief straight to black market junk, making things riskier, not safer, they say.
Yeah. As somebody who has been both addicted to street drugs and pharmaceuticals, when it comes to addictions, they really are the exact same thing. VFW said it isn't promoting a wild, unregulated products or recreational use, but rather they're asking for smart policy, protect the public, but don't kill the research. Let science do its job, regulate what's proven safe, and give veterans every legitimate tool available to get their lives back. The letter concludes. Our veterans have earned the best care we can give them. We urge Congress to take a balanced approach, one that protects consumers, promotes research, and gives veterans hope for a safer alternative.
Last month, VFW announced it entered a first of its kind partnership with hemp THC beverage company Torch Drinks, with a licensing branding deal aimed at supporting a variety of veteran services and promote cannabis drinks as a potential alcohol alternative. In addition to the branding licensing agreement, the cannabis drinks are set to be made available to VFW posts across the country in jurisdictions where they are legally or locally legal. Now, the debate over the hemp ban contained in the new enacted appropriations legislation has seen divides between some who feel recriminalizing the cannabis products will mitigate public health concerns, particularly as it concerns youth access in unregulated markets, and others who have insisted the Congress should address the challenges by establishing regulations, including age gating and testing requirements.
While many hemp stakeholders say the ban would effectively eradicate the industry, even applying to non-intoxicating CBD products that people use for medical reasons, there is latent hope that they can strike a compromise deal with lawmakers before the prohibition is implemented this time next year. Lawmakers such as Senator Chris Van Hollen also say that window could provide an opportunity to advance legalization or legislation to create an alternative regulatory model for consumable hemp products.
There were attempts by GOP lawmakers in both chambers to strike the hemp prohibition provision, but the proposed amendments from Senator Rand Paul and Thomas Massey did not make it to the final package. On the Senate side, Paul was joined by 22 Democrats, and notably anti-cannabis Senator Ted Cruz, in voting against a motion to table the amendment to prevent the ban, but the majority ultimately squashed it. Massey tried to revive the push in the House with his own amendment, mirroring Paul's, but the prospects of its adoption were dubious at best, as there was generally consensus within the Republican caucus that the spending bill should advance without further modifications that could have sent it back to the Senate.
Wow.
Yeah. There is a little bit more underneath there.
Yeah, there is. Since 2018, cannabis products have been considered legal hemp if they contain less than 0.3% of Delta-9 THC on a dry weight basis. The new legislation specifies that within 1 year of enactment, the weight will apply to total THC, including Delta-8 and other isomers. It will also include any other cannabinoids that have similar effects or are marketed to have those effects on humans or animals as THC. And this is determined by the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
The new definition of legal hemp will additionally ban any immediate hemp-derived cannabinoid products which are marketed or sold as a final product or directly to an end consumer for personal or household use, as well as products containing cannabinoids that are synthesized or manufactured outside of the cannabis plant or not capable of being naturally produced by it.
Legal hemp products will be limited to a total of 0.4 milligrams per container of total THC or any other cannabinoids with similar effects. And within 90 days of the bill's enactment, the FDA and other agencies will need to publish a list of all cannabinoids known to the FDA to be capable of being naturally produced by the cannabis sativa plant as reflective in peer-reviewed literature. So basically, right now, the Health Canada can list whatever the frig they want and say that it has whatever. All other known cannabinoids with similar effects to are marketed to have similar effects to THC class cannabinoids.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see what else is on there. The language slightly differs from provisions included in legislation that that had previously advanced out of the House and Senate Appropriations Panel, which would have banned the products containing any qualifiable amount of THC to be determined by the HSHS Secretary and Secretary of Agriculture. And meanwhile, advocates are sharply criticizing congressional leaders for advancing the spending bill ahead of Veterans Day on Tuesday. That also omits bipartisan provisions allowing U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs doctors to recommend medical cannabis to patients in states where it's legal, even though the policy was approved for full Senate and House earlier this year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. I just watching the time and that there. Okay. Time to move on. Just I'm just going to touch on something before we move on to the next article. Last Thursday, we talked about the movie In Waves of War.
Yep.
Did you see any of it over the weekend?
No, I haven't. I haven't had the chance to watch it. I've had grandchildren and family here pretty much since Thursday. But yeah, it's one I have. I've heard about it from a few other people. I've had a few people reach out to me and say, if you haven't seen it, watch it. I'm really excited to watch it. Yeah, have you watched it?
Yeah, I watched some of it. I didn't get to watch it all. It's 2 hours long. It's like an hour and a little more than an hour and 3/4. I did take a look at it and watch some of it from the beginning and watch some throughout the middle there because I was short on time. And there's a scene there of a 22-year-old widow speaking at his funeral. It's pretty yeah. Have your Kleenexes ready. That's all I can say.
And they want to gatekeep these medicines that can actually help people. It angers me.
Yeah. And there's medicines that can help. And talking about medicines that can help, that they're talking about banning them. What happens if states just keep on selling it? And I think that could be answered in our next story. Here we go.
Let's talk about that. Coming to us from MJ Biz Daily. What happens if states ignore the federal hemp THC ban?
Regulated cannabis interests are celebrating the end of the Farm Bill loophole that launched a massive nationwide product for intoxicating hemp THC products. But what happens if lawmakers and business leaders at the state level simply ignore the ban?
According to Columbus-based ABC5, that's the question now being asked openly in Ohio, where regulated cannabis sales began last year. That's despite ongoing competition from hemp-derived THC products sold at smoke shops and gas stations, and initial approved from state lawmakers for popular hemp-derived beverages.
Following the lead of states like California in October, Republican Ohio Governor Mike DeWine issued an executive order to ban hemp-derived THC at the state level. But DeWine's ban is currently up in the courts. It's held up in the court.
In the meantime, Ohio lawmakers are trying to regulate hemp THC under state law as they do with cannabis. We are still trying to figure out how to implement what's going on at the federal level. So I think that maybe pump the brakes for a little bit while we try to figure out how to proceed based on that. And this is coming from Republican Representative Ted Fisher.
Yeah. Meanwhile, as MJ Biz Daily reported, there's the question of enforcement. Federal law currently bans medical and adult use cannabis programs seen across the country. And if the $32 billion legal cannabis industry is illegal under federal law, but still exists, what's to stop the estimated $28.3 billion hectare hemp sector from continuing on despite federal prohibition?
Exactly. While cannabis is illegal for purposes of federal law, the federal government doesn't have the resources, doesn't have the personnel to go after individual retailers, individual buyers, let alone individual users. This is coming to us from Jonathan Adler, who's a law professor at William and Mary and an Ohio market observer. Even supporters of strict enforcement are admitting a measure of defeat. And that includes Republicans, State House Speaker Matt Huffman, who believes the immensely popular hemp-derived THC beverages sold at major retailers like Target and Circle K will continue to be sold.
State lawmakers still aren't sure what form enforcement of the federal hemp-derived THC ban will take at the state level, if any. Now, according to Huffman, he says, now are we going to go around and start cuffing 17-year-old clerks at gas stations? No, but we've got to get this thing in shape, he says.
Yeah. President Donald Trump on Wednesday signed into law the ban, which takes effect in November of 2026. That didn't stop a slide in stock prices for publicly traded cannabis multi-state operators, according to the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah. Now it says that it could simply mean hemp-derived THC products would have to play by the same patchwork and sketchy rules as cannabis. State-regulated cannabis programs are, after all, also illegal under federal law and have not attracted a crackdown from federal law enforcement, such as the USDA.
But as a Schedule I drug, hemp operators would have to contend with the onerous tax rules imposed by the Internal Revenue Code 280E. This will create some opportunities in hemp-friendly states while also sowing chaos and lots of legal gray areas that will be difficult to enforce. This is being said by Rod Knight, who is a North California-based attorney and expert in hemp law.
Just crazy. Yeah, I can see that with the states, so just ignore the federal end. But
yep,
the federal government has been, over the years, Obama and others have sort of backed off on those federal laws, but will they continue to do so? See what happens. All right. One more story before we go to break.
Coming to us from International Cannabis Business Conference, approved German Cannabis Cultivation Association total increases to 357.
Whoa. One of the key components of Germany's adult use cannabis legalization model is permitting cultivation associations to operate. Cultivation associations involve adult members joining licensed cultivation associations and sourcing cannabis products legally. Malta also permits adult use cultivation associations. Aspiring cultivation association operators could start applying to local authorities in Germany on July the 1st, 2024. Since that time, a total of 357 applications have been approved, according to the Federal Association of Cannabis Cultivation Associations. Most recent data, now according to BCAV, also lists that 791 total applications have been submitted to date.
Yeah, and below is a table breaking down where applications have been submitted and approved, if you want to take a look. And meanwhile, on the medical cannabis sector side of the industry in Germany, the Federal Institute for Drugs and Medical Devices, the BFRARM, recently published new medical cannabis import data for the third quarter of 2025, and imports continue to surge. In the third quarter of 2025, Germany imported 56.915 tons of medical cannabis products, according to them. And in addition to the third quarter of 2025 data, it appears that the BFARM has updated the second quarter of 2025 totals from initially reporting 43.2 tons up to 47.7 tons. And, we've got a little graph here showing the import totals.
That's a lot of cannabis, isn't it?
That's a ton of cannabis, dude.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. There's no doubt about that. All righty. I see we got our first stories done. Time for us to take a break. Time to medicate. We'll be right back after our medication session. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News here at paceradio.net. and 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats, and look of that supply of rolling papers. plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford, Ontario.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Re-rolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hey, we're back from our medication session. And I see Cindy's busy doing something.
Yes, I was just sending you a link, and then I've got a new computer screen. So even though my camera's over here, you're over here.
Yes, yeah, I know it's that light. That's what that is like, having the camera in a different spot than where.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. I've got the first story lined up. You ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, coming to us from Cannabis Law Report. Am I in the right story? No, I'm not. And coming to us from SF Gate, deadly Trump admin raids on California farm cost company $26 million.
California's largest cannabis cultivation company is still reeling months after the Donald Trump administration conducted a deadly immigration raid on its facilities. Glasshouse Brands reported Wednesday that the July raid costed over $26 million in lost revenue and reduced its quarterly harvest by over 100,000 pounds of dried cannabis. CEO Kyle Kazin said on a Wednesday earnings call that the previous quarter was the company's most difficult to date, referencing the federal operation on July the 10th, which ended with hundreds of workers arrested and one person dead after they fell from a glass house roof. The Department of Homeland Security said it found 14 children working at the facility, which would be a violation of state law. California's cannabis regulatory separately launched an investigation into underage labor violation.
Wow. The company has denied knowingly violating any labor laws, and there have been no state or federal charges against Glasshouse or its executives. Glasshouse owns a massive complex of greenhouses. The company says it's the largest cannabis cultivator in the world and has staked its future on growing incredible amounts of cannabis at the lowest cost possible. The raid interrupted production after the company was forced to rehire its entire farming staff. Yet Kazan promised that the raid's effect would only be transitionary.
We are emerging as a better and even more durable company for having faced it, he says. The company's stock price appears to reflect this optimistic view. After falling 30% in the weeks following the raid, the stock is now trading at a higher price than it was in July, with a market valuation of over $540 million as of Thursday morning.
The company is mounting this comeback without help of any of the workers who were arrested and subsequently deported, according to Hazel DeValis, who is the co-executive director of CAUSE, a Central Coast immigrant rights organization. Glass House originally promised to help coordinate legal assistance for workers, but DeValis said in an email to SF Gate that we haven't seen any further action or meaningful outreach from the company. To date, we're aware of 4 workers who have filed wage theft claims in the aftermath, and an additional 30 workers who were too afraid to come forward with claims out of fear of retaliation, she says. That reality speaks volumes about the company's values and how it has responded to what was, at the time, the largest workplace immigration raid in California.
Glass House did not respond to multiple SF Gate requests for comment or to a list of questions for this story. Now, federal agents targeted Glass House branch by striking 2 of its facilities on July the 10th, mounting armed convoys roughly 30 miles apart in both Santa Barbara and Ventura counties. There were protests at both farms, but the Camarillo raid turned chaotic after hundreds of officers descended on the 165-acre complex.
A protest in the nearby farm fields escalated, with someone allegedly firing a weapon and throwing rocks at officers, while federal agents fired tear gas and drove cars erratically around crowds. Kazan said in a November podcast that the scene turned pretty mealy. Workers ran from federal agents to keep from being arrested. One man climbed a greenhouse roof only to fall to his death, marking the first fatality in the Trump administration's violent immigration crackdown.
By the end of the day, federal authorities arrested 361 people and found 14 minors, according to DHS. The department did not return an SF Gate request for comment, and federal officials have declined to provide more details about who was arrested and what happened to the people following the arrests. Now, Dave Hafner, a spokesperson for the Department of Cannabis Control, said employing someone under 21 years of age could result in a fine and punishment up to a revocation of license. He declined to say when the state expects to end its investigation.
Most of the workers who were arrested faced either deportation or brutal confinements, according to a recent investigation by the Ventura County Star. With 150 people deported and few, if any, of the affected people returning to the country. Despite Glass House's promise to provide legal support, many of the workers were unable to get legal advice before they were deported, according to the Star's investigation. The publication followed one 25-year-old who said he spent hours lying flat on a greenhouse trying to avoid authorities, only to be found and quickly deported to Tijuana, where he knew no one. A disabled man told the Star that he was coerced into signing deportation papers because he thought he didn't have any legal representation.
Glass House has also allegedly not helped George Rentz, Army veteran and U.S. citizen, who was arrested while driving to work as a security guard at the facility. He spent the following 3 days in detention without access to any attorney and was then released without any charges, according to the Institute of Justice, a nonprofit that is helping Rentz pursue a claim against the government for wrongful detention. Andrew Wimmer, a spokesperson for the nonprofit, said Glass House has not provided them with any legal or financial help.
Wow. The raid has continued to traumatize hundreds of families who have loved ones deported after working at the facility, according to Louis MacArthur, the mayor of nearby Oxnard. He said some teenagers are now supporting their younger siblings after their parents were deported. We didn't see an active involvement from Glasshouse to reach out to the family members or of their employees that were affected. We didn't see that at all, MacArthur said.
Glasshouse executives have painted the deadly raid as a mere hiccup in the company's long-term path to global cannabis dominance. During an August earnings call, Glasshouse President Graham Farrar says the company was now working harder to automate workers out of its processes, and that will lower our costs quicker because of the raid, according to Canadian Business Times, or Cannabis Business Times. And on Wednesday's call, Kazan repeatedly referenced the company's desire to export cannabis to Europe, provided federal law changes. While it's highly speculative that any American company could soon legally ship cannabis overseas, Kazan still told investors the opportunity to be highly profitable for the company, saying that people are going to think we're Nevada with plants.
Yeah. Since the July raid, the company has pivoted to be much closer to federal authorities. Glasshouse contracted with a consulting company staffed with former immigration and customs enforcement officials, including a former ICE director, to help it strengthen how it verifies its workers. Kazan said during a podcast released in November that the company has now specifically invited ICE back to the facility. We have said, come on out anytime you want. No warrant. We don't want any issues. Kazan took some time during Wednesday's call to acknowledge the passing of one of the company's board members, but neither Kazan nor Farrar mentioned any of the impacts the raid had on the hundreds of workers at Glasshouse's facilities or the workers' families, although one person close to the company who was granted an anonymity by the LA Times to defend Glasshouse told the paper that the raid was very sad. The raid was very sad, but I can't believe they're not helping their employees.
I know, hey?
I mean, one of them died for the cause, and now these people are being shipped away to countries that they don't know, to areas that they don't know. And, this just makes me sad.
I think they're trying to step back from it.
Yeah. I guess they're trying to do that. But, I mean, if I ever go to the States, Glasshouse is the last company that I would buy. Not supporting your employees like that and just letting them get thrown and destroying families.
Yeah, I remember all the controversy when it first happened, and now to see what's happened afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, all those people helped them get to where they are, and now all those people are, basically after you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and not just the people, but their families. We read about how, older siblings now have to step up and look after their younger siblings. I mean, excuse my language, but what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. All right, time to move on to the next story.
Yeah, coming to us from CTV News, researchers explore mushrooms as potential replacements for semiconductor chips.
I had to read that twice when I spotted this story online. What? Yeah, a new study has found that fungi networks inside mushrooms could potentially be a promising and environment-friendly alternative for microchips used in processing and storing digital data. Researchers from the Ohio State University recently discovered that shiitake mushrooms can be used as organic memsters, a type of data processor.
Wow. The study, published in PLOS, supported by the Honda Research Institute, found that the mushroom showed similar characteristics to semiconductor-based chips. These fungi could potentially be used to create environment and cost-friendly computing components. John Larocco, who's the lead author of the study and a research scientist in psychiatry at Ohio State's College of Medicine, told ctvnews.ca that fungi have been known to have electrochemical properties since the 1970s.
He says that we were just curious about this one species of fungi that hadn't quite been used as memesters, and what frequencies they might operate at. Adding that his co-authors John Simonis and Justin Hill did most of the lab work. Now this mushroom, shiitake mushroom, were chosen and cultured for their non-toxic, edible, and radiation-resistant properties, according to them.
Wow. Being able to develop microchips that mimic actual neural activity means you don't need a lot of power for standby or when the machine isn't being used. Different parts of the mushroom root, which is the mycelium, have different properties, he explained. Some act as meme restores, while others like wires or capacitors.
Being able to make electronics that might otherwise require these for things like aerospace, for medical tech, and all sorts of other applications. That's a very attractive proposition for a whole range of fields, LaRocco says. He goes on to say that this has a lot of really interesting applications for aerospace, wearable devices, because fungi sensors can detect a lot of metabolites through the skin relative to a lot of diseases and stuff better than a lot of synthetic technologies can.
And Simonis explained that in addition to the electronics field, the research. Oh, sorry, my cat was just having a little spaz. The research has multiple other implications, like pathways into potentially improving the speed of amount of memory. The actual bar of usage is incredibly low, at least in terms of hardware costs, he told CTV News.
A major advantage of our specific memory series is that we use both readily available fungi, specifically in the cases of a shiitake microcilla, and fungi that is also generally safe to eat and typically non-toxic. Additionally, the fungi samples were surprisingly durable, Simonis explained. They would rehydrate and operate almost at full efficiency after being dehydrated for an extended period, which is typical way of preserving organic material, he added.
It's also generally fairly easy to store, fairly easy to reuse, and fairly durable for a long extended period. Meanwhile, LaRocco said another reason for this research is the fact that the mushrooms are very lightweight and flexible, which makes them useful for satellites, space telescopes, and radiation resistance.
Another key thing is that it needs no rare earths. It just needs a bunch of sawdust and a few electrical connections. Now, the team, including co-author Ruben Petressa, discovered that when used as a RAM, which is a random access memory, the device's working memory for 2 months, mushroom memorizers was able to switch between electrical states with nearly 90% accuracy.
Tamina, who is another co-author of the study and an associate professor in electrical and computer engineering at Ohio State, told CTV News that this is the future direction. There's more research that warrants the future studies about storage, reducing them to the size of your cell phone or laptop, for example, for storage purposes, because at the end of the day, we are talking about memory stores, being able to store information.
Yeah. Mushrooms, who knew? Like, we're talking about all these benefits medically, and now we're finding out that you could use them as capacitors inside.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about advocacy here and health benefits, so this is a little bit of a different side of the advocacy, and I think it's really cool. But what I really like about what was read, there was one little line in there that stated that, a lot of this could be used for health reasons too. They can create something that goes on the skin. It's not invasive, that can then help them read stuff. So they don't have to go in the body and cut the body open. They can just, they're working at creating this thing that will go on the skin and for certain disease, be able to read and help the doctors diagnose and come up with a healing modality.
Yeah, it's just
really cool.
It never ends.
Really
the information that's coming out. So
yeah.
All right. From mushrooms to cannabis.
Back to cannabis. Coming to us from Cannabis Business Times. Trump's DOJ allows federal prosecutors to enforce simple cannabis possession crimes.
The Trump administration won't be giving Americans who possess personal amounts of cannabis a free pass, apparently directing U.S. district attorneys' offices to enforce federal prohibition laws. At least that's according to Darren Smith, the U.S. attorney for the District of Wyoming, who said on November the 13th that his office notified federal law enforcement agencies in his jurisdiction to start rigorously prosecuting cannabis offenses occurring on federal land, such as national parks.
Smith's office indicated this policy change resulted from a September 29th memo from the Department of Justice, which he said rescinded the Biden-era guidance of taking a hands-off approach to simple cannabis possession offenses. Although Biden became the first president to issue categorical pardons to individuals convicted of simple use and possession of cannabis, his administration never provided guidance to U.S. federal prosecution related to the issue, at least not publicly.
Smith indicated that Trump's DOJ put the power back in his other attorneys' hands. Cannabis possession remains a federal crime in the United States, in respect of various state laws, Smith said in a press release. The detrimental effects of drugs on our society are undeniable, and I am committed to using every prosecutorial tool available to hold offenders accountable.
Cannabis Business Times reached out to Smith's office and the DOJ for a copy of the memo. While the DOJ, under the tutelage of the U.S. Attorney General Pamela Bondi, hasn't publicly released the September 29th memo, a spokesperson for Smith's office who told WOFILE that the Trump administration believes cannabis use is a public safety hazard and that Wyoming District Office plans to enforce the law to ensure safety and security of the public within our jurisdiction.
Now, this comes as President Donald Trump's administration continues to look at a proposed rule to reschedule cannabis to Schedule III status under the Controlled Substances Act. And on August the 11th, Trump told reporters at the White House that some people hate the whole concept of cannabis because it does bad for the children. It does bad for people that are older than children. But we're looking at reclassification.
The administration's approach to pursuing prosecutions related to simple cannabis possession may seem like a U-turn from former U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland's stance under President Joe Biden's administration. However, Garland never issued an official memorandum or document to guide federal prosecutors. In other words, there was nothing to rescind. Instead, Garland only offered his informal stance while taking questions from lawmakers.
Yeah, Garland told Senator Brian Schatz during an appropriations subcommittee hearing back in April 2022 that the Justice Department has almost never prosecuted use of cannabis, and that's not an efficient use of the resources given the opioid and the meth epidemic that we have. Now, Garland also told lawmakers during his confirmation hearing in March of 2021 that prosecuting state-sanctioned cannabis activities does not seem to me a useful use of the DOJ's limited resources.
Well, Garland never issued an official memorandum. This hands-off approach mirrored a directive of then U.S. Deputy Attorney General James M. Cole, issued back in August of 2013 under President Barack Obama. The Cole Memo. The Cole Memo provided guidance to all U.S. attorneys, directing them to prioritize enforcement efforts that prevent cannabis distribution to minors, sales revenues from going to criminal enterprises, cartels, and the diversion of cannabis from one state to another, among other priorities.
This memo came less than a year after Colorado and Washington voters elected to legalize adult-use cannabis in 2012, the first states in the nation to do so. As a result, Cole directed federal prosecutors to rely on state and local law enforcement agencies to police their own cannabis laws instead of the intervening. For example, Cole wrote, the Department of Justice has not historically devoted resources to prosecuting individuals whose conduct is limited to possession of small amounts of cannabis for personal use on private property.
One key detail about the Cole memo that some might have forgotten, he too directed the DOJ to prevent cannabis possession or use on federal property. To put it another way, Smith's announcement on November 13 that he plans to rigorously prosecute cannabis offenses occurring on federal land doesn't really differ from what was in place under the Obama administration via the Cole memo.
Well, former Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who served during Trump's first term, rescinded the Cole memo in January of 2018, leaving state licensed operators in a legal gray area. Not much actually changed. Federal prosecutors didn't suddenly start chasing down state-sanctioned cannabis activities or individuals possessing personal amounts of cannabis. That's not to say that Americans aren't getting arrested for cannabis possession by state and local law enforcement agencies. State and local police made more than 204,000 cannabis-related arrests in 2024, most of which were for simple possession, according to the cannabis advocacy organization NORML.
Cannabis-related arrests as a percentage of all drug-related arrests were the highest in states with the nation's least permissive cannabis laws, such as Louisiana, Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Idaho, and Wyoming. Cannabis-related prosecutions remain the primary driver of drug war enforcement in those states, where cannabis remains criminalized, whereas with few exceptions, cannabis-related arrests fall precautiously in jurisdictions that legalize and regulate the adult-use cannabis market. This is coming from NORML's Deputy Director, Paul Emerito, and he said this in a blog earlier this month. There you go.
Yeah, although American support for cannabis legalization remains near an all-time high at 64%. According to the Gallup poll released earlier this month, that support is down 6 percentage points from 2023, mostly due to Republican support dwindling to a 10-year low of 40% under the Trump administration. This drop comes despite Trump saying along the campaign trail in September of 2024 that, as president, he would support states' rights to pass cannabis laws that work so well for their citizens, and that he'd work with Congress to pass safe banking legislation for state authorized companies.
More than a year later, at least one U.S. attorney feels empowered by the Trump administration to take the sterner stance on enforcing federal prohibition laws. In the November 13th announcement from his office, Smith suggested that federal prosecutions will no longer be significantly curtailed by the Biden-era cannabis policies. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Wyoming remains steadfast in its mission to uphold the rule of law, including the enforcement of federal statutes prohibiting the possession of cannabis and other controlled substances.
Now, Wyoming is among a handful of states that have yet to legalize medical cannabis. Possessing any amount of cannabis is criminalized and punishable by jail time, including up to a year behind bars for 3 ounces or less. Imagine getting 3 years in jail because you had 7 grams of cannabis. Yeah, after reading that, I started wondering, will places like companies across the states start getting federal raids? It's just a matter of time.
What they're saying there, if I'm reading it correctly, like they're worried about getting people on federal land. So if you stay away from like federal parks and et cetera, I'm hoping that that's what they mean, which gives people a chance to fight back. And I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed. Yeah. For everybody that I know in the States that uses cannabis, that's what they tell me. They literally avoid quote unquote federal land.
I just gotta give my puppy a hand here.
Sure.
There, done.
So yeah, I hope that I'm kind of getting the right vibe there. Although I still think it's bad, it's just not as bad as it could be. And there's something to fight back against there.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna got one story to go. We're at the top of the hour, so we'll get some of this mushy moment story, or not mushy moment, marijuana moment story covered. And we'll go from there. Here we are.
Yeah, I'm really excited to do this one. I like the order that you put everything in, because now coming to us from Marijuana Moment, New York officials celebrate their 500th marijuana dispensary opening with $2.3 billion in sales since market launch.
Wonder if some laws are going to change all that. New York cannabis regulators are celebrating the opening of the state's 500th legal cannabis dispensary, touting the fact that there have been $2.3 billion in adult use sales since the market launched, supporting an estimated 25,000 jobs across the industry. At a ribbon cutting ceremony on Friday, Green Comfort Dispensary became the 500th licensed adult use cannabis retailer to open its doors in the state since the market launched in late 2022.
Felicia Reed, acting executive director of the Office of Cannabis Management, said in a press release that the growing number of licensed dispensaries reflect a market that's maturing with purpose. Each new business represents economic growth, community investment, and safer access for consumers, she said. Together, they signal that New York's legal cannabis market, industry innovation, and consumer demand are showing no signs of slowing down.
Beyond the 500 shop milestone, OCM also highlighted other statistics about the industry's growth, including the approval of 1,949 adult use cannabis businesses across license types. Dispensaries are now present in 51 counties and 161 municipalities statewide. Now, according to Jessica Garcia, chair of the Cannabis Control Board, she says that every licensed storefront represents a vetted operator, tested products, and the community choosing safer cannabis. Reaching 500 shows that the industry's momentum and our continued focus on equity, compliance, and consumer protection.
Of nearly 2,000 adult use licenses that have been issued to date, OCM said that 56% have gone to social equity businesses that have been disproportionately impacted by the prohibition. With tax revenue from cannabis sales and licensing fees, $5 million has been invested into community reinvestment initiatives. Another $5 million has gone to a grant program for conditional businesses licenses for eligible applicants, and $2.6 million has supported technical assistance for those seeking to enter the marketplace.
Equity has been the foundation of this market from the start, according to Simone Washington, the chief equity officer at OCM. They go on to say that reaching this milestone reinforces the progress is possible when fairness is built and embedded into the system. Our focus remains ensuring that equity is not just a principle on paper, but a measurable outcome across every level of the industry. Tim Tanavang, CEO of Green Comfort Dispensary, said it's truly an honor to be recognized as New York State's historic 500th licensed dispensary.
Wow. Yeah, it really is a labor of love and passion from myself, David, and all the staff here at Green Comfort. He said, we are excited to foster a vessel in which we can give back to the community, the city of Rochester, and the state. We're optimistic for the future of Green Comfort and the future of New York State's cannabis. With respect to cannabis sales in the Empire State, regulators in September announced that the state had officially, surpassed $2 billion in adult use cannabis purchases. They haven't been open that long.
No, and the dollars are just flying in the door and through the cash register. And I'm going to shut down that story just so you know. Yeah. It's a lot of stores, a lot of sales. Lots of money is being raised. It sounds like some of their money is going to good places to help people. Right? So not just into a slush fund for what I call to be able to purchase orange juice at noon hour for a politician, right?
Yeah.
So that's good. All right. Anything else you want to mention to remind everybody tonight?
Yeah, just if you are in the Halifax area, come on down along about 6:30 to the Halifax Public Library, coming into the BMO room. The Nova Scotia Psychedelics Society is putting on a speaker series, and tonight they have offered me the podium. I would love to see you there. Also, we will be streaming live on Zoom. I have sent the link now to Al. So we will share that out on some of our pages, and we will hopefully stream live through Pace Radio as well. So I look forward to seeing you and join the Zoom conversation if you would like to ask questions. If not, you can always save them for tomorrow and ask me on Mushy Moment.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you probably give an update on how things went.
Yeah.
So So that's forward to look to. All right, that's our news report for today. Thanks to our buds at the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, Limestone City Hydroponics.ca, as well as At-Eze.ca. In closing, as I always like to say, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the program. And don't forget, educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.